SLT Speed Up සවාරිය සමගින් සද්දන්ත වාසි රැල්ලක්. අලුත් බ්‍රෝඩ්බෑන්ඩ් සබඳතා සඳහා පළමු මාස දෙක පුරා data double. Speed up with SLT.
Making headlines on First at 9. Assurance of benefits. President Maithripala Sirisena stresses the government's commitment in developing the north and the east. Grief-stricken. Tense situation erupted at the Gala hospital following the death of an infant. Making a return. Central Bank says the Employees Provident Fund will be back on the trading floor.
I think recently the EPF started operating in the secondary market in government securities.
All for attention. PAFL laments their lack of attention on youth representation.
In Sri Lankan electoral system, political party, they are not serious about the youth representations.
Steadying the ship. Australia's new cabinet sworn in. Well, very good evening to all our viewers who's joining us here on other Derana 24/7 Sri Lanka's news channel. I'm Katharina Chang. Now moving on to your top story tonight. President Maithripala Sirisena stresses the government's commitment in ensuring the benefits of development work conducted in the northern and eastern provinces trickle down to its people. The head of state touched on the topic during the meeting of the Presidential Task Force on the development of the northern and eastern provinces yesterday.
The Presidential Task Force on the development of the northern and eastern provinces met for the second time at the Presidential Secretariat yesterday. During the meeting, the President instructed the IGP to focus on carrying out an efficient program to control drug trafficking in the two provinces, while expediting development was also given attention. The pace of development in the north and east is very low. This Presidential Task Force was appointed to look into any delays and possible corruption in the development projects in the two provinces, as well as to ensure proper utilisation of funds. All these delays must be eliminated soon.
මේ කටයුතු වල තිබෙන ප්‍රමාදයන් වළක්වා ගන්න ඕනේ ඒ කටයුතු ඉක්මනින් කෙරෙන්නට ඕනේ.
Several members of parliament who participated in the meeting yesterday expressed views to media. We are satisfied with today's discussions. The issue of lands was also focused, along with political solutions and youth unemployment in the north and east. There will be solutions to all in the near future. The President said that 88% of private land are released in the north and east. No illegal resettlements have taken place in the Mahaweli H zone. The President also agreed for an observational tour in the Mullaitivu district, and he also instructed to release lands belonging to schools which are under the army.
Party leaders of the joint opposition held a meeting with former President Mahinda Rajapaksa this evening. It is speculated in political circles that the joint opposition's anti-government protest planned for the 5th of next month might be at the heart of the talks. Some members of the joint opposition spoke to media on their way to the discussion.
The delimitation committee was appointed by the President, and the subject minister is also from the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. SLFP's stance was to hold the provincial council elections under the ward system. That delayed elections by 2.5 years. The operation where even the subject minister voted against the report was conducted by the UNP. They defeated the stance of the President and the SLFP. I'm not the presidential candidate, but former President Mahinda Rajapaksa is. We have unanimously decided to nominate him as the presidential candidate.
A tense situation erupted at the Gala hospital following the death of a 1.5-year-old toddler admitted to the hospital this morning. Parents of the infant claimed that even 2 hours after admission, their child was not examined by doctors. Hospital sources, however, claimed the child's death occurred while he was under treatment. Agitated area residents vented their grief by damaging hospital buildings as well as 2 vehicles of doctors. The hospital was provided police and STF security. Police later called for the dispersion of the protesters by informing them that the doctor in charge was already transferred to Kandy. Those words fell on deaf ears as protesters continued to demand the arrest of doctors at the hospital. The United National Party dismisses the prospect of President Maithripala Sirisena and former President Mahinda Rajapaksa working together as inconceivable. Addressing a media briefing at the party headquarters Sirikota today, parliamentarian Mujib Rahman also responded to the suggestion that the former president will be offered the premiership.
Basil Rajapaksa says the special high courts will be abolished once they come to power. Why are they afraid of these if they have not committed fraud or connected to corruption? They should be able to go before any court and prove their innocence. They know that they are connected to bribery and corruption allegations. Gotabaya Rajapaksa has been able to go before courts and request not to take up the cases filed against him at lower courts. Minister Sarath Fonseca couldn't do it back then. We aren't aware of such a thing. If the president does that, all the comments he has made and the journey he has come so far accounts for nothing. The Attorney General's department has taken some steps to bring them back. I think he will have to come before law wherever he is hiding.
Parliamentarian of the UPFA Shahan Semasinghe questions the government as how it plans on resolving Singapore's issues related to garbage when Sri Lanka too is faced with a similar crisis. The parliamentarian spoke on the concerns stemming from the Sri Lanka-Singapore Free Trade Agreement in question while addressing a media briefing of the joint opposition held in Colombo today.
A Singaporean newspaper published an article on the 18th saying that Singapore is now looking at alternative solutions to their garbage problem because China stopped buying their garbage in 2017. Singapore produces 7.7 million metric tons of solid waste and 60,000 tons of electronic waste per year. How can the government find solutions for Singapore's garbage when Sri Lanka is facing a similar crisis? Moody's named the Sri Lankan rupee the most riskiest currency in the world. And then The Economist magazine says Sri Lanka's economy is in a risky situation at the moment.
Sri Lankaවේ ආර්ථිකය බරපතල අවදානමක පවතී.
Several parliamentarians and civil society organizations called on the government to immediately launch an investigation into accusations made by a group of reformed former LTTE cadres who allege of arms deals by some of the country's Muslim politicians. Executive Committee member of the Federation of National Organizations, Vasanta Bandara, highlights that the government's hesitancy in taking action over the allegation might lead to communal disharmony.
There was a news item about a disclosure of arms smuggling by some Muslim ministers. That press conference was held by some of the ex-LTT men who have formed a new political party and given up their separatist ideologies. However, they made very serious allegations against these ministers. It is more than 2 weeks since that news was published, and the government has not taken any action regarding this serious threat to national security and also communal harmony. Because when majority Sinhala people hear that some of the ministers in the government are collecting weapons and buying weapons from ex-LTT men, they tend to think that separatist Muslim groups are gathering powerfully, and this type of propaganda will create serious problem among these communities. We urge the government to immediately question these ministers and also those ex-LTT men who reveal this weapon deal and inform the public about the truth.
Vimukti Koti Namin.
A group of reformed former LTT cadres called Liberated Tigers claimed recently that around 5,000 firearms which belonged to the terror group were given to Muslim politicians like Rishad Badiuddin and MLAM Hizbullah. This could threaten national security. Is it because the government is protecting the accused that it is not responding to this properly? Prabhakaran started the murderous culture in the country by killing Alfred Durayappa with a pistol. This culture destroyed Tamil democratic politicians. That only left us with weak followers of Tamil Chelvams such as Sambandhan and Sumandiran. Are you trying to inflict the same fate on the Muslim community as well? So there is no point in the President and the Prime Minister talking nonsense and the IGP dancing all over the place. We need solutions for this issue.
Meanwhile, Minister of Industry and Commerce Rishad Baduddin refuted these allegations levelled against him. Issuing a statement today, the minister requested the government to launch an investigation into the matter so the truth can be ascertained. A gentle elephant by the name of Kalana of the Devinuvara Sri Vishnu Devala has caught the attention of many, but for all the wrong reasons. She was discovered with severe injuries to her right front leg, which led to the arrest of the secretary of the trustee of the Devala and its mahout on charges of animal cruelty. The court has requested the zoological department to produce a report on the health condition of Kalana. Our cameras captured an elephant named Kalana being inhumanly chained at the Devinuvara Sri Vishnu Devala. Its front right leg was severely injured, leading to infection, as the chain has eaten into its flesh for a long period of time. Following the report, which was telecast on Derana yesterday morning, Deputy Minister of Wildlife Palita Tevara Peruma arrived at the Devinuvara Sri Vishnu Devala in Kotte to inspect the condition of the elephant. He later lodged a complaint for animal cruelty at the Gandhara police, after which steps were taken to apprehend the secretary of the trustee of the Devala, S. Kolamage, and Kalana's mahout. Following the arrest, the suspects were produced before the Mathura Magistrate Court and was later released on a cash bail of 200,000 rupees each. The defendants were ordered to appear before court on the 11th of September, and an order was issued by the Zoological Department to provide a report on the elephant's condition. The defendants were also ordered to ensure that the elephant will be given proper treatment following their release. First at 9 spoke with a senior mahout in the country who has experience in caring for one of the tuskers who bears the casket in the Asla procession in Kandy. While wanting to remain anonymous, he said the wound to the elephant's leg could have been avoided had the shackles been another 1 inch looser. He said during must, when the elephant is confined owing to its testosterone sure to over 50 times the normal level, front shackles are tightened for about an hour a day to provide a window for the elephant's enclosure to be cleaned. In his view, the skin of the animal was breached during this process, while water and mud which could easily enter the breached skin caused the painful wound. When we put to him the possibility of a cage being constructed to contain elephants during must, he said it would not work for tuskers as they are likely to use their tusk on anything within reach and risk breaking them. Mental health has long been considered taboo when it comes to open discussion. All the efforts are made to rid the topic of its social stigma and bring to attention the real concerns and dangers of mental health issues. It is evident that more is required. With the aim of promoting awareness on mental health issues, the Courage, Compassion, Commitment Foundation launched its free telephone counselling service, CCC line 1333, to help those who need to be listened to in times of emotional crisis. The CCC Foundation has now moved to hold a BIKEATHON from tomorrow in a bid to bring the subject to the attention of the masses. Currently, over 11 people take their own lives each day in Sri Lanka, which makes it a desperate issue in need of address. For the 5th consecutive year, CCC line 1333 is holding its annual BIKEATHON to spread awareness of its free telephone counselling service and encourage people to voice their personal struggles and ensure assistance is granted those with mental illness or suicidal thoughts. The 1,333-kilometer bicycle journey organised by the Courage, Compassion, Commitment Foundation, which will be worked off from tomorrow until the 10th of September, will make stopovers in 13 main cities across the island and will see the participation of over 20 full-time cyclists from all over the world. The awareness campaign is also an effort to raise funds to sustain and expand its operations and assist efforts in suicide prevention. The ultimate aim of CCC line 1333 is to prevent suicide in Sri Lanka through education of mental health, engagement and empowerment. A media briefing was organised by the Courage, Compassion, Commitment Foundation yesterday to promote the 5th annual 1333 BIKEATHON. Speaking to First at 9, brand ambassador of CCC Foundation, cricketing legend Kumar Sangakkara said that breaking the stigma associated with mental illness is vital in Sri Lanka.
When you understand mental health issues in Sri Lanka and the fact that it is indeed a dire problem, it is a problem that we don't like to talk about very openly, It is a problem that has a lot of stigma attached to it. In the old days, you can remember if you mentioned the word Angoda, you immediately said crazy people. Children were taught to mention Angoda and to kind of connect Angoda with, with mental health issues. So you understand how for a very long time how difficult it would have been for someone with a serious mental health issue, someone who is under pressure due to a variety of reasons, to be able to talk openly and get the help needed. And the role that CCC Line and other like-minded organizations have played in the prevention of suicide in Sri Lanka, which again was a huge issue, which has dropped luckily, but still is a major issue for us, is very, very commendable.
Founder of CCC Foundation, Jeta Devpura shared his story behind how Sri Lanka's first and only 24/7 telephone counselling service came into being.
When I heard about the issues in Sri Lanka with high suicide and so forth, I thought one way we can help is having a telephone counselling service. So we got down Lifeline from Australia, which is one of the biggest telephone counselling services there in Australia. They helped us to start CCC Line, and today we have over 100 telephone counsellors trained who are volunteers.
He also spoke on the need of open conversation when it comes to addressing mental health issues.
People say that he or she committed suicide. I don't believe that anyone is committed to die. We are here to live and be happy as human beings. But what happens with suicide is that people find their situation overwhelming. The only answer for them through their suffering and through their anguish and through their anxiety is this, path to suicide. I too, as I said, went through mental illness. And yes, I had to have the courage, compassion, commitment to go through it. But a lot of people around me also helped me. And it can be a lonely road. But if you feel, or anybody out there feels that there's no one to talk to, that nobody will listen to them, I ask them, please call 1333 to help them get through their difficult times.
A 5-member committee headed by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe was appointed by Speaker Karujaya Surya today to review the Delimitation Commission report on provincial councils. The other members appointed to the committee are RMA L. Ratnayaka, Periyasamy Muthalingam, Professor Balasundaram Pillai and Dr. A.S.M. Naufal. The Office of the Speaker announced that the committee was appointed in accordance with powers vested by the Provincial Council's Elections Amendment Act. Expressing concern over the lack of a proper mechanism for election campaign financing, Executive Director PAFRIL Rohan Hettiarachchi said that the organisation is pushing the government to bring legal provisions to set up necessary framework ahead of the provincial council elections. During a media briefing in Colombo today, attention was also driven to a lack of youth representation at elections.
But unfortunately, there is no special provisions for youth representations. Earlier in the local government system, we had that quota. But unfortunately, the reform, local government reform, elections reform, it was excluded. They forget the youth. Even in the recent provincial electoral system also, the youth quota for the political party, they themselves can decide. They can allocate the quota, even without a legal framework. But unfortunately, in Sri Lankan electoral system, political party, they are not serious about the youth representations.
Journalists raised questions on efforts by election monitoring bodies to introduce a proper mechanism to regulate election campaign financing.
Some countries we do have campaign finance limitations. In Sri Lanka, we don't have any campaign finance regulations. But we have drafted something, Election Commission has drafted something in our content, and I think it is already with the cabinet now. So we are promoting not only the campaign finance, we are little bit broader. We are talking about the political finance in this contest. But Sri Lankan contest, we are talking about, at the moment, campaign finance. We are pushing the government to bring such law. Some countries, there are regulations. Based on the number of voters, they have identified the amount. So some countries, if you contest the elections, you have to have a separate account for that. Whatever the finance support you get, you have to deposit that account. End of the elections, you have to submit all the audited report to the elections commissions. And also, in some occasions, we have some countries, there are limitations where you can get the money, and one person how much can contribute.
So closely connected to that is asset declaration. Candidates need to declare their assets, but the laws are very weak, and even if we find out through RTI how much a person has, we cannot release it to any other person. We cannot publish it in the newspapers.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
The former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. W.A. Vijayawardena, today expressed his concerns over the Monetary Board garnering the support of the government, as the Central Bank's independent status is also paramount. He said this delivering the 68th anniversary oration of the Central Bank today. Also speaking here, Central Bank Governor said the Employment Provident Fund will soon be back to trade on the Colombo Stock Exchange as part of CBSL's improvement drive. The oration for the 68th anniversary of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka was delivered by the former Deputy Governor Dr. W.A. Vijayawardena on the theme A Revisit to Central Bank Independence, How to Resolve the Emerging Issues.
The Central Bank people have to play a special game. The game is the bank has only one power, that power is to print money. And as a result, all central bankers are required to play this game very prudently without causing any side consequences for the rest of us in the economy. What the central bank management should do in order to earn the trust of the people is nothing but to use their extraordinary power of creating money responsibly in the economy. The central bank should be free from the government. The central bank cannot function independently of the government so there's a kind of a conflict in the present monetary board itself. What is most important here is therefore the maturity of the central bankers. And central bankers should be able to say no whenever the rest of the world is asking them to say yes. Want to get the government support, you have to allow the government to get support to your monetary policy also. So it's a kind of a compromising situation for central bank.
Meanwhile, speaking there, CBSL Governor Dr. Vijay Kumaraswamy went on to speak of the changes and improvement brought about within the regulator in order to restore its integrity.
There are many positive things, but we've also had our challenges. I think it's no secret that we've had some legacy issues that we've had to tackle, and that has taken time. It has taken staff resources, financial resources, and at times it has been distracting. Though that process is still going on, there are various inquiries, there are 6 forensic audits. We've made good progress. We've had greater challenges as far as the non-bank financial institution sector is concerned. But here again, tangible progress is being made. We've had half a dozen insolvent institutions, but we are now slowly making progress. And in fact, yesterday was the very first time that we were able to pay some depositors from CIFL out of the deposit insurance scheme. From the EPF, again, a lot of work has been done in terms of improving processes and procedures. CCTV cameras and voice recording have been put in place. And I think recently the EPF started operating in the secondary market in government securities, and we're working towards the EPF coming back into the stock market fairly soon, once all the preparatory work is completed.
The Colombo shares extended losses today to hit their lowest close in 17 months as the investors offloaded telecom and beverage stocks, while worries over new tax proposal dented sentiment. The Osha price index ended 0.56% lower at 6,010.23, its lowest close since March 28, 2017. It closed marginally higher last week after 4 straight weekly falls. For analysis of today's trading session, we have Dimantha Matthew from First Capital Holdings.
The bourse ended in the red today to close at a 17-month low with the SPI at 6,010, losing about 34 points. The index was dragged down by the big caps, Ceylon Tobacco and Dialogue. Intraday, SPI was on a downward trend throughout the day, recording the largest dip in 2 months. Turnover increased with nearly about 59% being derived from parcels trading in Amana Takaful and Melster Corp. Net foreign outflow was witnessed reversing the 3 consecutive days of inflows amidst moderate foreign participation.
Dragged down by imported dollar demand amid less inflows of the greenback, the Sri Lankan rupee closed at 161 rupees and 22 to 30 cents per dollar today. The rupee hit a fresh record low of 161 rupees and 30 cents early in today's trade. The Sri Lanka rupee has declined 1% so far this month and 5.1% so far this year. Dealers said it will be under depreciation pressure due to year-end seasonal importer demand. Meanwhile, analysts added that absence of dollar conversions by exporters and outflows from equities also pushed the rupee lower. Here's a look at the foreign exchange rates.
Watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Australia's news cabinet under the incoming Prime Minister Scott Morrison was sworn in today after the country underwent a degree of political turbulence last week. Several senior ministers who pledged loyalty to Turnbull before turning on him are also included in Morrison's cabinet. The new Australian cabinet lineup was sworn in today in Canberra after a week of political chaos that marked the emergence of Australia's 6th Prime Minister in less than 10 years. Prime Minister Scott Morrison's new cabinet includes former Turnbull loyalist Christopher Pyne as the new Defence Minister, and the Foreign Minister position was given to former Defence Minister Marise Payne after Julie Bishop resigned from her role. Senator Matthias Cormann, one of several senior ministers who had pledged their loyalty to Turnbull before turning on him, will return as Finance Minister in Morrison's new cabinet. With outgoing Prime Minister saying on Friday that he would quit the Parliament, any such action by him would trigger by-election and place Morrison's parliamentary majority at risk. Yesterday, Turnbull told party members that former Prime Ministers are best out of Parliament and not in it. Without Turnbull, Morrison will command 75 of a reduced 149 seats in the House of Representatives. A by-election for Turnbull's seat will most likely take place in October, and if the government loses the seat, Morrison will be forced to rely on independents to pass legislation in a 150-member parliament. The Labour opposition currently has 69 seats. Let's now take a quick look at other emerging stories from around the globe. Facebook said yesterday that it was removing certain Myanmar military officials from the social media website and Instagram to prevent the spread of hate and misinformation after reviewing the content. Facebook said they are specifically banning 20 Burmese individuals and organizations, including the senior general who is Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. The plight of a lonely dolphin and dozens of penguins that have been abandoned in a derelict aquarium in Japan since the start of this year sparked calls for animal activists for the marine park involved to take responsibility. The operator of the marine park aquarium shuttered the facility in January, citing a decline in visitors after the 2011 earthquake and nuclear crisis. Media reports say the female bottlenose dolphin nicknamed Honey was captured in 2005 near Taiji, a western port town that has become notorious for its annual dolphin hunt. An auction of Disneyland theme parks, vehicles, props and artifacts that turned into a Los Angeles attraction in its own right raised more than $8.3 million. And regional Dumbo, the flying elephant ride car, sold for $483,000, while magician David Copperfield nabbed a neon letter D from the Disneyland Hotel for $86,250. The International Cricket Council has appealed to the public for help in identifying the alleged match fixer who features in an undercover documentary. Al Jazeera broadcast a first program on the subject in May, with a second to air soon. The already aired program also implicated officials of Sri Lanka cricket who who are in charge of the Galle International Stadium in the match-fixing saga. The ICC said it had identified every other person in the original documentary, which included allegations against England and Australia players. Al Jazeera has claimed the alleged match fixer is known as Anil Munawar.
A very good evening, everyone, and welcome to Forecast First. The northern and eastern provinces of the island are going to have some scorching temperatures tomorrow, with the highest of 35 degrees Celsius expected in the Batticaloa district. Central Hills, as usual, will be much cooler, with temperatures dipping to low 20s. Moving on to your rain forecast now, there's going to be showers or thunder showers in many parts of the country, but those who are in Jaffna, Mannar, Anuradhapura and Kandy won't have to bother with umbrellas, as those regions are expected to stay dry. That's all that we have from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your City by City forecast.
And before we go tonight, we'd like to take you to Kandy, where the only Tusky in the world to have a police and military guard, Nadungamo Raja, bid farewell to the city for another year following the Asila procession. He will make the 5-day journey back home on foot. We hope you enjoy his visuals and have a pleasant evening.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.